Fantastic.
Not doing this for money, are you?
Yeah. Didn't you know that you're just doing a public service? You should get subsidized for having your hobby store open so people can play. Where else are going to be like people? They need to be able to bring their 3D printed models somewhere to play.
They are entitled.
They are entitled
to play.
That's it.
The game that they want to play.
That's right. Yeah. The game that they want to play at all given times. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Inside Tabletop. I'm here with public servant and game store owner, Chris from War Games and Hobbies.
Public volunteer servant.
Public volunteer servant. That's right. Yeah. To answer the burning question, are brick and mortar hobby stores dead as a concept? We've been told over and over again that they are dying as a concept. And we're going to explore that.
This is
today.
Very edgy and clickbaity, just like Lords of War loves it. You
This
know?
is the Lords of War style title right now. Yeah. Brick and mortar stores collapsing, dying, going out of business. And let's be fair, they are.
Yeah,
plenty of them are. If you haven't seen this show before, this is my GMG show on a new channel because apparently, if I don't do it this way, YouTube will just shadow all of my videos and nothing ever gets seen. With Chris from Lords of War Games and Hobbies, a game store owner, co-owner in Oakville, Ontario. One of my longtime industry friends. We worked together at Games Workshop for about 10 years of my time there, and then you guys went and opened your own store.
Yep.
You and Jay. And so the reason we do this show basically is to pull back the curtain a little bit and to get some insight, the beat from the street, if you will, on what's going on in the tabletop gaming world at like the retailer level. Chris and Jay also have a great YouTube channel of their own that you guys can check out and go subscribe to. 2 channels now, actually.
Whoa.
One is the talkie section. The other one's the
plugging's
section.
getting harder. Imagine plugging your thing in a couple of weeks. It's going to go here.
You better be. You fucking better be. Please. YouTube. The AI. This is my judgment day. This is like my Rise of the Machines where I'm fighting. I'm John Connoring. Like literally trying to John Connor so people can see indie games because there is no room on YouTube anymore for a variety show. Just like there's no room in the real world for a hobby store.
They don't. Yeah, exactly. Well, they don't think people like you exist. That's probably why. Which is pretty fair. There's not a lot of people like you. So.
There's not. They also don't think. Well, there's a lot of GMG patrons, and thank God for them because without GMG patrons, this would be crashing to a halt. Because YouTube is not kind to anyone who doesn't.
Not unlike a hobby shop, really, right? Yeah.
Whoa, let's talk about that.
So,
how I'm the brick and mortar hobby shop of the internet.
Shockingly, rely on people to come in and make purchases. Whoa,
it's
crazy, right? But without making it too dramatic, the simple answer is hobby stores are not dying.
No, they're not. No.
So
I would argue they're evolving. And that there's kind of classifications. Like we could probably spitball some buckets for what kind of hobby store are we talking about.
Yeah. Retail is also not dying, but it is evolving and changing into something very different. I've strongly believed, even since we opened our hobby shop, I wouldn't have opened a hobby shop if I didn't think this, but because like 10 years ago, it wasn't like it wasn't happening already. Oh, yeah. Like, Amazon was still around, you know what I mean? Like, so a lot of people would ask me, is this a good decision to do long term? Right. And I strongly still believe that the types of shops that will like stand the test of the time are the ones that have a really narrow niche like focus and a strong sense of who they are. And hobby shops have a really good chance at being that. I think the reason I said they aren't that is because there are some confused ones out there, people that are trying to do too much, be too many things to too many different people. But I think if you have a strong sense of what you do, a clearly defined purpose, and you know where to look and find those customers, I think you're probably doing okay. And I think the scary thing, and the reason maybe people are, a lot of people shop online now. Look at that. So maybe they have less connection to a physical place than they might have had a while ago. And maybe maybe they're projecting that sense of like, well, I don't feel a strong sense of like attachment to a store, so like maybe everyone feels like that, right? But I think a lot of people are still addressing their hobby kind of needs in a physical sense, like tactically, whatever the term is, where they want to come in and touch and feel, and a lot of it's like paints and like brush supplies. And
I think there's a reason for that maybe we can circle back to, because I'd like to add some context to this conversation. Where one of my POVs on this is from long before you opened your gaming store. this has already happened before. There have been eras in what a hobby shop means, right? So if you go way back in time to the 80s and 90s, a hobby shop typically started when a comic book store or a model railroad store discovered there was new and interesting products they could sell, like Magic the Gathering and Warhammer and Dungeons and Dragons. Yes. Those three things took a bunch of different types of hobby stores, whether they sold scale models, whether they sold comic books, because those are all hobbies and interests, and inserted new product lines into them. And that was kind of the first dying off, because the ones that did tended to grow and become the like Action Comics. The Silver Snail in Toronto was one of the original ones. There was Worlds Collide in Southern Ontario. Like, these places that grew from being one thing and they added product lines and then grew into being other things, where they became whole like holistic, what you'd call a hobby shop, where they kind of sold all this fandom stuff.
And think about how, I want to like just even highlight just how like that the person running that business, you got to give that person a lot of credit, because think about how I don't know, outside the box thinking you would have to be like, I sell railway trains. This is my anchor product. I know this. I know my customers for this. I'm going to bring in this like new plucky, wargaming stuff or whatever that I don't know much about or whatever. And there was a chance on that, right?
And there was a lot of parallel development around that. So if you remember the Generation 1 D&D box set and the first generation of Games Workshop starter sets, they were designed to get that guy's interest, because he didn't understand selling a bunch of different things and then putting them together to make a game. He did understand a box that has models in it. Right. So the D&D starter set had little figures in it at one point, the red box and the white box, because the model person could understand, hey, here's models, and I also sell paints and accessories. And the same with the Games Workshop box sets. The first 2-player starter set was the Adeptus Titanicus one. And before that, it's the reason why the Warhammer box, the first edition Warhammer, was in a box with a bunch of books in a box. Because you could sell a box, you couldn't sell books.
It's funny that you say that.
And it was to get in the head of those people.
People forget that like those products are designed as much to make sense to the consumer as they are to make sense to the business owner selling.
Yes, absolutely.
Like this is something that makes sense. I can sell this to someone. It physically makes sense.
Yep. It can stock on a wall the way that I stock products. Yep. And so basically, we're making a short story long, but that's wave one of that die off. Wave two is when the internet comes in. Right. And we get the Great Canadian Miniatures. We get the new wave hobbies. Anyone who was on the internet playing hobby games back then, 2005 to 2010, will remember when selling miniatures became a rising thing. And that caused the people who didn't have an online store versus did to have another great wave of dying off.
Right.
And so I guess the argument I'm making is like hobby stores and game stores and like fandom interest stores, they're not dying off. They're evolving into something new. And specifically the hobby store in the last, I'd say 10 years since COVID, and like before and during and then after COVID now, with the rise of Amazon and the rise of e-sellers and then the rise of AI, there was a wave of people who came in first as we have to have a brick and mortar store to be able to order Games Workshop so we can run our e-business. And they were basically warehouses that had a storefront.
Right.
And there was a huge wave of those that came in, and some collapsed and some didn't. And the era of like, can you discount, can't you discount, like fast turnover selling became a thing that like survived or died. And then they realized they might need that brick and mortar location to subsidize their online sales when online sales weren't great. And in the symbiosis between what it used to mean to be a hobby shop and being an e-commerce site have like blended together into a new organism, basically, that's the modern hobby shop.
Yeah, and then we have like a lot of people on this side of the world. We have the Shopify revolution that really like changed a lot of things for like small businesses, making it really easy to basically port your store online.
Yeah.
And be this like hybrid model, like you said, right?
That's it. And some did and some didn't. I'd say you guys evolved to meet that need where some other hobby shops didn't, and that's where this dying off started to happen.
Yeah, we had a gun to our heads, basically.
Sure,
not unlike what you're going through right now
with
your channel, but like we had a bit of a gun to our head during the pandemic where it's like, oh, people can't physically come into... we ran out of excuses, basically, because we had the whole excuse. It's like, well, we want to preserve the in-store experience. We don't want to be packing boxes while people have customers in the store. We don't want to turn to this like online thing. Like that's not why I got into the hobby business side of things. to the point where it's like, oh, this is existential. Like we probably have to do this to survive, right? So that kicked our butts. And then, hindsight, it's like, oh, okay, it's not actually going to be that bad. We're still doing more than 2/3 of our business in the store.
Yep.
And then online is just like gravy, basically. But the interesting thing, like to take it to the next step, is we're in this like massive growth period right now. Like that's basically since the pandemic, all hobbies like card games, Magic, Pokemon, whatever. There's some new ones too. 40K, like AOS, like everything's just growing like crazy right now. So in order to accommodate that growth, like tons of new hobby shops have popped open, right?
Yep.
And as a person who's been in this for a long time and been around for like the crashes and the busts and stuff like that, we were both there when the 08 thing happened.
Yep.
And like Games Workshop changed the entire business model for the company. I know that it can go. It's like there's going to be a day when things, either like plateau or like slow down or even go down, right?
Can I posit a theory about that?
Yeah, sure.
So, and this is maybe something you have or haven't thought about. This is where I wanted to come to the thing with AI and algorithms. Is you have got a whole bunch of people who, because of the growth in IP in Dungeons and Dragons, in Magic, in Games Workshop, have interacted with that product for the first time online. Right? Space Marine 2, Warhammer Online,
Total War,
Magic Online was what I was trying to say. And Dungeons and Dragons through all of its various media outlets. Because they started online, and because the AI algorithm tends to narrow your view of things, right? Algorithmically, if you're interested in something, it shows you one version of it.
Right.
When they first come into a hobby shop, they get a very unique experience to them, where we might have discovered something in a hobby shop. When they come to a hobby shop, they actually get to interact with things in a real way and talk to people in a meaningful way about their products. So that boom is also accompanied by a customer who's kind of starry-eyed walking into a retail store and seeing things that their algorithm hasn't shown them, right? Getting to have like interactions with the product that are actually backed up by a human voice and not just by like, hey, I just keep seeing this on my sponsored feed and I keep seeing that this is what, and I keep seeing ads for it, but I haven't seen a human being play this game in real life.
Right.
And so it does feel like that boom is coming almost as a backlash for how curated the algorithm has made the experience of people that have learned about this that are new.
Yeah.
So when they come into a hobby store, they actually really see the value of the hobby store that maybe existing hobbyists who've been along this whole ride don't really appreciate anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting.
I think that's phenomenon. A great point. And I think it goes to the whole like third spaces argument, right? Where like, I think, culminating in that pandemic experience, like you have the pandemic, but you also have like the whole digital revolution that's like reshaped our lives. Those two forces like basically acting on us at the same time. Quite frankly, it broke a lot of people. Like, and changed people mentally. But it also made people, like you said, value so much more those in-person experiences and wanting to be part of things. And so many people, after they're allowed to, or went out and looking for like genuine experiences again. So like board games, same thing, like just through the moon, like people are looking to have those like genuine experiences with their friends and family and stuff, right? So that's got to be a huge part of this like expansion. So the question, I guess, is like how does it retract at some point, or is it just like gonna at the very worst like plateau and not grow as much, right? So it very much could be sustainable. I will add though that like there's an element to it, like the whole like running of these hobby shops. Like it's very easy to open a hobby shop, actually, like surprisingly easy to open a hobby shop. You have a little bit of money or whatever, and there's a lot of people willing to give you a lease, let me tell you.
Yeah, it's true.
You're gonna sign? Okay. Yeah,
I'd like you to be my wage slave. You can be my wage slave. This sounds great.
But the whole, I think like there's a reason why you don't see a lot of these businesses last for 10, 20, 25 years, right? Those are far and few between, because it is very grindy, and like you said, even when you were prefacing all this, there's big changes over the 5, 10, 15-year period where you have to be
comfortable being uncomfortable with something new.
Yes, that's a big thing, right?
Most business owners want to just be able to repeat the same action over and over and get the same result. This is an industry where that is not the case. Like you just can't. Even the stable ones like Magic, they're having to adapt to the fact that Magic Online is a big income generator now for Magic the Gathering. for the way that distribution's gone and changed, like for cost models changing. Like you can't just run Friday Night Magic and
No.
print money now.
Yeah.
And your cards don't hold value. I was having a conversation with a mutual friend of ours actually about that, where holding on to the Schrodinger's box is more valuable than the ripping open of the pack anymore for Magic. And that's an evolving thing.
It's very interesting. Yeah, you have essentially like there's this relationship. The older a box of sealed Magic cards gets, the bigger the difference it has, arbitrage or whatever, between the value of the cards inside it. So older boxes have almost no relation to the value of the cards inside it. Yeah. It's just purely like a exercise in like, oh, there's just so few of these left that haven't been opened.
That's right.
And that's valuable.
And that's valuable.
As a collectible.
Doesn't matter if they have a Black Lotus in them. That's completely pointless.
Yeah.
Because that Black Lotus has even gone down in value.
Yes.
Right? Because there's more sets and there's more famous and iconic cards. So those individual cards are going down in value.
People that have gotten into Magic in the last 10 years, they don't care about Black Lotus. Like,
they
don't.
You know
what I mean? Like, it's
just
not a card that matters to them.
Yeah. Jake Paul's really ruining that Charizard.
You're right.
It is not worth $1 million anymore. That's for sure.
No, but no, it's really interesting. Like, and to move into the next kind of point, there are it's still a very hard business, even though during a boom period, like we could do tons of episodes about this, but nobody's making $1 million running these hobby shops. Like it's very grindy. Most things have okay margins at best, and it's still even in like things like Pokemon. Still a niche product, right? Like it's still something that not everyone's going to buy and things like that. It's
funny because we talk about hobby shops, the value add of like a painting area and a gaming area and a wide selection of products that even don't necessarily exist on, the primary websites like the Games Workshop online store and stuff like that. Having additional things like you have a million paint lines and grass tufts and stuff like that. Yeah. I don't think any one of them is now more valuable than the other because of the way that online retailing has affected sort of like how people are forced to interact with their products and how they get into their own echo chamber based upon their own interests. If you look at something, it's shown to you over and over and over again, and you get these weird blind spots where you can't see stuff anymore. So I'm really curious, how do you value that in your own space? Because you have limited space. How do you, in your head, chop up like what's valuable right now as far as my product mix, what's valuable as far as how much gaming space I have and how much attention do I put to that? Like, where do you put that in your own head? Because I'd be curious to think what other, and tell us in the comments if you're a retail store owner, how do you think about this too? Because this is a real question, and every customer is going to value one of those things more than somebody else. Yeah. There's some people who are just like, it's a gaming space, let me play.
This is why there's so many things, bits of advice, but like one thing is like you can't listen to your customers, and that sounds awful.
Yeah,
to say that, but they can't be your advisors.
Yeah,
in your business.
I would say I would push back on that a little bit. You can't listen to your customer, but you can make an aggregate.
Oh, sure, for sure, yeah.
Because I think that is also important.
But you also have to add, like, there's a context to it, and you have to add weight to which person's saying what, and
they don't value the same things you value because they're not the guy that owns the business.
And but what I was going to say, only in sense of compared to, you really need to be create a network for yourself of people that you trust and that you can talk to, whether that's people you've been in the industry with a long time, or I've made a real point to be an actually friendly local hobby store, which means like I make good relationships with other stores, even if they open 10 minutes down the street with me.
Yep.
I have great friends that I've known in the industry a long time that open their own hobby shops, and I've met just from like living in different cities and that sort of thing. And I make a real effort to have a relationship with those people. Oh. And it's super valuable to be able to be like, shoot a message or pick up a phone and be like, hey, I'm thinking this about this product. Am I way off here?
Yeah.
Or,
you can sounding board.
You just have, like, it's so valuable, right? Like it's great to have Jay. Like that's an advantage I have over a lot of business owners is I have a business partner that could be like, oh, it's stupid. Or like, like
someone to tell you no,
pulling you back from the break. You need
someone
to
tell you no
sometimes.
Yeah.
Or like, Jay can get super excited about a product and I'd be like, you're excited, but that's not.
I desperately miss that. Having someone to tell me no.
Huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other side of things is like, you have to be really brutal. Like sometimes like, it reminds me, like we had Flames of War on our shelf for almost a decade,
Mhm.
and we just had to say goodbye to it because it just wasn't selling anymore,
Yeah.
right? And it's sad. I love the game, played it to death. It's just like at some point it's like you have to be like, this is something I like, but apparently not enough people like this anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm a business, I have to be smart, right? So
But how many times can you sell people 15 mil, US Rangers? Like once they have them and they have them painted,
Yeah.
unless every customer ends up doing every faction in the Second World War, there's a logical cap point to where new customers coming in don't outpace.
well, and this is
And when
interesting.
you have a World War II collection, you have a World War II collection in 15 mil. That's it.
The Warlord Games people are being really smart about this, and they are. This is probably a good topic for another video, but they're they're trying to court us right now, but they're very keen on that, and they're really going to be putting a lot of effort into their Weird War going forward.
Hope so.
Because
it's the only space where they can.
They
make
recognize that
yeah.
that's the thing, right? They can make things indefinitely there. There's only so many like new half-track kits you can put out in Panzer IV boxes and German this Auswaff.
If you're a guy who's been playing like World War II
Panzer
scale modeling
company.
gaming forever, like you're just gonna have the stuff. Like you're just buying a new rulebook. It's the definition of that like edition exhaustion and Fortnite battle passing. Like how many editions of Flames are we gonna buy?
Yeah.
And so for you as a retailer, like there's a logical cap for, and maybe you wait 10 years and then you bring it back in because that's really what happened with Flames of War. There was not a good mass market World War II miniature game that was accessible and easy to play. And so they come on the scene in like 2005, 2006 with basically 40K played in 15 mil with World War II stuff.
Brilliant.
And everybody goes, bam, and it blew up.
Yeah.
And they built a company.
Well,
overnight.
and you had, a lot of people that do historicals are going to hate me for saying this, but like you had like a bit of a zeitgeist going on there at the time. You have like the Saving Private Ryan, you had Band of Brothers.
There was a fascination with World War II.
Great stuff coming out. People rediscovering World War II and being like, oh, I like history and I want to read about history and I want to learn about history. I don't know that that's been happening for the last five plus years.
You got to wait a bunch of generations and do it again, right? It's like the Gladiator effect. We just got Gladiator 2. The hit of the season, Gladiator 2.
Just a smashing
the movie
success.
nobody
no one
asked
for is the greatest way to put it.
Ridley, just make another
We're going to do it again.
Just make another Alien.
Mostly the same way.
Just make another Alien. Poor Ridley. Just losing his mind.
But no, I strongly believe that the hobby store will keep evolving and keep being around. And I think that's like my strong belief in humans actually is just that we want real experiences.
Yeah,
like we want
fundamentally.
face-to-face, fundamental. As much as other people are trying to tell me it's not the case, I see it every day. Like people
Tabletop Simulator only gets you so far. Tabletop Simulator is a great like way of bringing together people that do not have a hobby community they can go to, and for smaller games to get played by people virtually online. It is not going to replace the hobby.
People
right?
also like
it's a social activity. Rolling dice with your friends is fun.
I know Cheers is an outdated thing like now because I'm aging myself a ton, but like people love having a bartender.
Yeah. People love having a bartender.
That's nothing wrong. Like I heard a barber or like there's something great about that. Or you can go somewhere the guy knows who
everybody
you are.
knows your name. Yeah.
He does like a 20. You guys do your 20-minute like how's life? What's going on? Oh yeah, they know you better than like some of your relatives. Yeah. Like like
it's the reason why dive bars will never not exist.
It's
having a good dive bar, a good place where you can get a burger and a beer.
Yeah.
It's like for the same reason that will exist. You can buy booze and drink it at home by yourself. People don't, and that's a hobby for a lot of people.
Like I know how important that part of my job is. Like I'm very keenly aware that like that's like half my job is being a good bartender.
Is being a good bartender. I would fully agree.
Yeah.
And for people to come and enjoy, like, and whether it's like, and we talked about this, we used the allegory of in our previous episode, we were talking a little bit about the professional versus the beer league, right? With Warhammer and Age of Sigmar. This is the space to do that. It's why we need public parks, right? It's why we need like places you can play like pickup baseball. I was playing some beer league baseball last weekend, and like you need that for people to interact with.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a thing that's like the same as like a bad sports bar. You can watch sports by yourself at home, or you can get together with a bunch of friends and do it sitting at a bench table, drinking a couple of cheap beers and having a burger out at the sports bar.
Well, exactly right. Yeah,
and people will continue to do that. I think that with a social activity like gaming, it's always going to exist. There's always going to be spaces for it. And that third space idea, I think, like you said earlier, there's been a boom, but that boom has allowed it to evolve into a new animal where it's blending the online access point with the social space, with a curated experience where you can find out in real life about painting and modeling. And people will approach it all for different reasons, but they're approaching it. And that means that there's always going to be a need
and
for it.
I'll kind of cap that off with like, I think the hobby stores that will stand the test of the time are the places that are just not commodified spaces. That they are like trying to be more than that to people. Because when things get, inevitably, like there's a downturn in the market, or 40K somehow doesn't grow 1 year or something, there's going to be less people to sell things to, and people are going to keep going to your business for the reasons that like don't make sense, I guess, all the time, which is that they just like you.
Yep.
Fundamentally.
Yeah. And like it or not, we are speaking from a North American point of view.
Of course.
So I would like to end that with this idea. We are much more comfortable as North Americans engaging with something in a capitalist way versus a socialist way. Whereas in the UK, they have things like game clubs.
Well, I say, unfortunately,
shared spaces. Yeah, I know.
I'd be like, Comrade Chris over here.
The unwilling capitalist.
I would be all about a subsidized space for people to go and be, enjoy a non-commodified space and get to like paint and hang out and play games. I think that'd be the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah,
doesn't exist where we live.
Yeah. And North Americans are less comfortable interacting with it than places that have just had it for a long time. Yeah. Like the UK gaming club culture is something that I think everybody on earth should be a little bit envious of, because it is such a and it's like, I think it's also maybe culturally, and I'm speaking of this as a man from the colonies, but there is always a fascination with like tradition and like an ongoing pursuit of keeping things of the same value going, right? So like that game club culture in the UK it's celebrated. Like they have whole contests at things like Salute, the UK Game Expo, where clubs are encouraged to show up and bring their activity and do things together. So like, I do think that we fill that same niche with the game store, and it puts that on you guys in North America as like
a thing
that is commodified. And so there's going to be some culture clashing where people want to use their shit for free. Yeah. And they want to come in and be like, but this is like I bought Games Workshop stuff 10 years ago. Why can't I play here? I bought 3 paints from you. Why can't I play my 3D painted army in here?
I paid my landlord last month. Why do I have to pay him again? I don't get it.
Why do I have to paint my 3D printing stuff? I like that. I like that episode you guys did. That was a good one.
I'm actually gonna get Jay on at some point.
We have to get Jay on
because just to make. Trying to make him as uncomfortable as possible.
As uncomfortable as possible. That's right. Yeah. How are we going to handle 3D printing in the store?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk about that one next. All right. Well, that's it for another episode. We did another Inside Tabletop. I am optimistic. I think that there is a bright future for these like third space locations that blend digital and the analog stuff. You can't like it was the old joke. You can't 3D print a friend. Can't buy a friend on Amazon. Yeah. You meet new people. And as someone who's lived in a lot of cities in my life, one of the things that's great about having a hobby like this, and it could be any other hobby too, it could be music, it could be skateboarding, it could be sports, is if you move to a new city, you instantly find a social network by going to your local game store.
Absolutely.
Or by going to your local skate shop, or your local bike shop, or your local hiking shop, like whatever that ends up being. Your hobby can very often be your way to network with people that have similar values and interests as you. And the game store has always been the place where people meet and do that. Some of my best friends I met at a game store, right? Like it's kind of inevitable.
Yeah.
So I do think that for that reason, they will continue. And you've made it a decade, man.
Friendship is the antidote, man. Honestly, like there's a lot of lonely people out there. Honestly, like these things are great for that though. Like places to play. And a random little story to cap off. We recently been playing in a over 35 soccer league. And it's funny to see how many men in their like late 30s, 40s, even early 50s come out, and they're just like, that is why they're there. Is they're like, it's like their wives like, go out and make a friend.
Yeah. I release you.
Yeah. Go have a
leave me alone.
Do not come back after soccer. Go have a beer with those people and you make a friend. You tell me about your friend when you come back.
You have homework. You have to drink a beer with someone. You have to learn 3 names. Could you imagine? But it's true. It's true. And I think from the gaming point of view, that is the access point, especially in North America, for hobbyists in this like sphere, right? Is you're gonna have that. It's funny because I did the baseball thing for the same reason. Planet of Baseball League, which
That's
is
so
fantastic.
good. That's great.
All right. Well, where can people find you online?
Lords of War Games and Hobbies on YouTube, and then Lords of War Games Hobby Channel is a new channel we did.
Oh.
Yeah, spicy, very innovative name there. And then on Patreon, you can also check us out. That's the best central way to talk to us. That's kind of where we answer all the questions and get all topic ideas and all that stuff.
Yeah. Same with here. So you can, of course, interact with this on the new Inside Tabletop, GMG Inside Tabletop channel. You can also get on Patreon if you want to be part of the live recordings for this. We're about to sign off and do a Q&A. And that's it. So please like and subscribe so we can monetize this channel, because otherwise this is all going to go horribly wrong real fast. And join on Patreon, because then you get to actually curate the questions that get asked. And that's how this topic came up, because it was literally a question in the Patreon mailbag that we expanded on for this video. So we'll see you next week for Inside Tabletop. And I'm Ash. Bye.